Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Miguel Heinonen. Miguel is an entrepreneur and avid YouTube vlogger and founder and CEO of Horizon, a map-based employment marketplace. He likes to talk about all things startup and entrepreneurship, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, Miguel.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, first off, Miguel, why do you do what you do?
I love the tech industry. I graduated from college as an undergrad in '09. Back then, this was right before apps got to be a significant milestone. As back then, when I graduated, it was just the iPhone 3. And I always wanted to get in the tech industry and build a business that was not a brick and mortar business, but that could affect everyone around the globe, especially online. And without me having to interact. I really wanted to stay away from of having to interact with my people and just build it through the digital means. And when COVID came along, we really started pushing up into our platform, which is an employment platform that aggregates all the jobs that are around you. And especially with COVID right now, we've had to make some pivots. So we have a lot of remote jobs. And right now, it looks like we're getting out of the lockdown here in London pretty shortly. So we're just going to be trying to helping out as many people, aggregate as many jobs to help people find local work and long-term work as well.
And let's talk a little bit about how a small company can get involved in the tech space.
It's a very good question that you ask. I work with quite a few early stage companies, and sometimes they have an idea that they want to deploy. Because I've gone through the experiences of the ups and downs of being in a tech, startup. I always tell people to build an MVP, and with spending as least money as possible, and
minimum viable product, just for our audience, right?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
An MVP. And like today, when you want to build an MVP, you can spend hundreds of dollars instead of thousands of dollars compared to 5 years ago when we started. And I show a lot of people like, hey, listen, like show me what you want visually. So I show them, I tell them like, listen, go to all like the best apps, like go to the Uber, for example.com, take a screenshot, and then now start replicating of exactly what you want, like how you want the admin to look like, how you want the front end of the website to look like, and build it very, very minimally. And that's the first part. And nowadays, especially with you have many platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, you got people per hour, you can have MVPs built at a very, very minimal cost. My first startup, and actually, I was, it was a couple of years ago, but I wasn't doing as well. And I remember thinking, you know what, I need to, take this from the ground up. I sold my iPhone. I got about 580 pounds. I gave a back-end developer 400, and I gave him the PowerPoint. And here we are today. We've built so many different features. Display boards is a back-end feature, but that's how I got started. It was much more cost-effective. And from the MVP, we always just took a lot of feedback from people about what they wanted on the platform. But here we are now, 2 years later. We've got users, and taking notes from them as well, what they wanted. But we have users from all across the globe looking at different type of jobs, via geolocation, as well as people, when COVID came, for example, people only wanted to see remote jobs. So yeah, I always tell people you can get in the tech industry, but make sure you're very wise how you spend your cash. Don't believe everyone, saying that they can build it for you for $50,000. You need to make sure you can build an MVP and find it as a good use case, and making sure that you're getting feedback from users. And that's the key point from over there. But today, I would say it's a lot easier now because there's so many platforms that are offering services that protect it, like for example, on Upwork and Fiverr, the money is put in an escrow account, which is, is kept safely there until like the platform's actually been finished. So yeah, I try and help out as many people as I can to get into the tech industry.
What tips might you have for someone who is trying to decide what exactly is a minimum viable product for their in their particular circumstance?
That's a good question. Actually, that's always a key issue is when you have an idea, you have too many ideas, and people start, writing down like I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this. The you need to just ask yourself one question. Like who is my end user and what do they really want and what is like the key selling point? That should be the only thing that you build. Once you start getting feedback from that, for me, for example, the only and even now I've taken out so many parts of the platform, like users can't log in. It's all open access, all free data, and very simple to look at. And that's because I understand, and it took me a long time to really take out all what was unnecessary. My end users are just looking for jobs. So keep it simple. I still run on the principles of my MVP. And once you start taking it to the next level of adding the different sequences, make sure you ask yourself three questions before you do anything and spend money. A, how much does it cost to get to the next level? B, what's my return on investment? And C, can I really afford it and will it help me make additional income? So if you can't answer any of those, don't take the next step. Just make sure you always, always, always just, to the core, what are your end users actually going to look for? And you have many people that want to build apps and they always have too many ideas. I always tell them like, listen, what do you actually want to serve? So if you can put in a PowerPoint with what your business model is going to look like, this is how the app's going to look like, and very simply from there, that's how you can take it to the next step of finding a developer, especially on Upwork or these platforms, to help you build that minimal valuable product.
All right, so great. We got that minimum viable product built. And now, as you said, we want to get feedback from our users so that we can begin to make improvements to the product. What tips do you have for deciding which are the priorities for those improvements? What tools do you use to say, all right, the next feature that we need to do is this?
Well, I've been using a couple of tools. One really great tool that I've been using actually for remote work. It's an early stage company based out of France, but it's a great way to work with your developer and start prioritizing. There's so many SaaS tools out there. Well, if you're really working with like a developer, you want to be able to use a platform like Jira, for example, which is it's a great platform just because you can start note taking of like what's priority, what's for future work. So, for example, I would put multiple tasks, for example, saying that like I want to build a dashboard for students, but that is a lower priority. And then on the top, I would put like there's a bug, for example. It's very tough to filter, so I always prioritize with using these tools such as Jira, for example.
And Miguel, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
It's a tough question. I was just looking at your profile and I saw that you live in Texas. And I went to military school in Texas. It was the first state that I ever moved to. I grew up all over East Africa. I ended up in Texas in a military school. I asked my parents to send me to the Marine Military Academy down there. And I had a drill instructor, and I lived in his barracks for 2 years. And I tell you, I would account a lot of my success to him just because of those core principles he taught me as a young man, saying, hey, no matter how difficult it gets, especially in entrepreneurship, you need to be able to have thick skin. And yeah, I knew like, there were ups and downs. Like I told you, I had to sell my iPhone to pay, but I knew no matter how bad it got, especially at a younger age, I could hang. And he used to tell me, hey, can you look in the mirror? Can you hang? And he really gave me a great foundation at an early young age. And I test a lot of my entrepreneurship skill sets to a lot of the discipline that he taught me at a young age when it came to academics as well as emotionally as well, how to deal with entrepreneurship because it's an up and down, but I love it. And I think because of that mentality of the physical stress, sometimes, or the mental stress of what it's like to be a young entrepreneur, I love every moment of it, and that's why I keep doing it. And now that's why I'm trying to help as many people as I can to get into the tech industry and build their ideas.
And lastly, Miguel, how can somebody contact you?
The way to contact me is always LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I love networking with people. If you have ideas or need some help, please feel free to reach out.
All right. Miguel Heinonen, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.